What would you do if the person they tried to remove was the one who risked his life so others could stand free? He didn't come for applause. He didn't wear medals. He just showed up with a folded card in his pocket that said, "Dad, I want you in the front row." But when 2 guards told him he didn't belong, 6 Navy SEALs stood up, and the room went silent. This is the story of Master Sergeant Raymond Cole, a father, a veteran, and the quiet man the world tried to ignore, until it couldn't. Watch until the end, because this is more than a graduation story. It's about dignity, loyalty, and what happens when true honor enters the room. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because stories like this, they remind us what really matters. Some people walk into a room and no one notices. Others don't say a word. And the entire room feels different. This story is about the second kind, the kind of presence that doesn't demand attention, but commands it anyway. It was graduation day at St. Albans College, tucked away in the soft hills of Albemarle County, Virginia. The air was bright with celebration. Blue skies, a gentle breeze, the kind of morning that feels like a reward. Linda. Monroe arrived early. She always did. She parked in the faculty lot, carefully stepped out in her pressed navy dress, and clutched the program with her son's name printed proudly. Cameron Monroe, Dean's List. She had read that line 100 times over the last 2 weeks, and every time it made her chest swell in a way only a mother would understand. The auditorium buzzed with life. Balloons bounced, bouquets bloomed, families filled every row with chatter and camera flashes. Linda took her seat, 5th row, center left. Perfect view of the stage, but she wasn't watching the stage. Not yet. She was watching the people. That's when she saw him. He didn't enter through the main doors like everyone else. He came through a side exit. Quiet, deliberate, alone. He was black, mid-50s maybe, wearing a faded marine dress jacket that hung loose around his shoulders. His jeans were worn, boots scuffed, hands folded neatly behind his back. He didn't speak, didn't look around, he just stood there. Still, solid, like a statue no one expected but couldn't ignore. He didn't look nervous, he looked ready, like he'd been standing still for years, waiting for this one day. Slowly he moved toward the front rows, where the nameplates read, "Family Only." He stopped near an aisle seat, and just as he reached forward, a young woman in a headset stepped in his eye. "Path, sir," she said, her voice clipped. "This section is for designated family only." He nodded once, calm, polite. "My son's graduating today," he said quietly. "I should be on the list." She didn't check, didn't glance at the paper in his hand, just pointed toward the back. "You'll need to stand clear, please," she said, "or security will escort you." He didn't argue, he didn't raise his voice, he simply stepped back, 1 pace, then another. 2 guards appeared moments later, just close enough to remind him of where he didn't belong. But a few seats away in the 5th row, 6 men had been watching him since the moment he entered, and unlike the rest of the crowd, they knew exactly who he was. He didn't belong there. That's what they told him, not with their words, but with their eyes, their posture, the way they stepped closer like he was a problem that needed managing. The usher stood still, her headset crackling quietly. She didn't offer help, didn't even ask his name. He stood there, holding a single folded card, edges worn, ink faded. 1 sentence written in blue pen. "Dad, I want you in the front row." That's all it said. His son had written it by hand, no RSVP, no formal badge, just those 12 words. But that wasn't enough. Linda watched from her seat. Something didn't sit right. Something about the way he stood. Not defiant, not proud, just still, like he'd been told to wait his whole life. He didn't look angry. He looked like someone who had already learned how to swallow anger, again and again. The guards didn't touch him, not yet. They hovered, waiting, watching, just in case. Most of the crowd hadn't noticed. They were too busy checking camera. Angles, adjusting ties, smoothing dresses. But in row 5, a different kind of attention was brewing. 6 men, scattered across 3 seats. No matching uniforms, no loud signals, but something about them felt aligned. They hadn't taken their eyes off the man since he walked in. One of them leaned slightly forward, ball cap low, eyes sharp, body still. "That's him," he whispered. The man next to him nodded once. No words, just recognition. Linda didn't know what they meant, not yet. But something about it made her sit up straighter. The girl with the headset walked past the man again, this time with a second staffer. "He's still standing there," she muttered. "I don't think he's invited." The second staffer shrugged. "I'll have security keep an eye on him." That's all he said. Not check the list, not verify, just watch him. Like a threat, like a warning. Linda felt her stomach tighten, not from fear, but from shame. A shame that didn't belong to her, but somehow stuck anyway. She glanced at the man again. His posture hadn't changed. Chin up, hands behind his back, eyes on the stage where his son would walk. But now, instead of a front row seat, he had a spot against the far wall, just beneath the glowing red exit sign. A man who had given more than anyone in that room was now being treated like he didn't exist. No confrontation, no scene, just a quiet erasure. And still, he didn't move, because some men don't raise their voices to prove they belong. They stand still and let the world make its own mistake. Graduation music played softly overhead. Pomp and circumstance, the same tune every school uses, but somehow still made parents tear up. The dean stood at the podium, microphone feedback buzzing for a second. "Welcome, parents, families, and distinguished guests." His voice rang out, bright, confident, practiced. Everyone clapped, even the ones who barely listened. Linda clapped too, but her eyes weren't on the stage. They were on the man still standing by the exit. The old Marine. Jacket, the calm face, the folded card still in his hand. He hadn't moved. Not one step. Still waiting. Still invisible. The usher walked past again, this time whispering to someone in a black suit. "He's still here," she said. "Should we remove him?" The man in the suit looked toward the exit. "Keep an eye," he replied. "But don't cause a scene, not yet." Linda turned toward the woman sitting beside her. She had a name tag, Staff. "Do you know who that man is?" Linda asked. The woman barely looked up. "Probably someone who wandered in," she said. "These ceremonies always attract extras." Extras. That word hit like a slap. Like that man, that father, was background noise, just another shadow. In a bright room. But Linda saw more. She saw the way his left shoulder tilted slightly, as if it still carried weight from a war that never left him. She saw the frayed sleeves of his coat, not worn for show, but because it was the best he had. She saw dignity, not displayed, but lived. Meanwhile, the student speaker took the stage. Young, polished, perfectly rehearsed. According to the program, he was the dean's son. He thanked his parents, the faculty, his friends. Then he added with a smirk, "And a special thanks to the presentable families in the front row for showing us what college values really look like." Polite laughter rippled across the crowd. Refined, chilly, complicit. But Linda didn't laugh. Neither did the man by the wall, and neither did the 6 men in row 5. The one in the ball cap leaned forward again. "That was for him," he said. They all nodded. No one else caught it. But they did, because they'd seen it before. Different setting, same look. The look of a man who's earned everything and been given nothing in return. The ceremony continued. Name after name. Applause. Flashes. But something in the air had shifted. Not loudly, not obviously. Just enough that Linda knew something was about to happen. And this time, she wouldn't look away. The moment came quietly. No spotlight, no microphone, just footsteps. 2 security guards began moving toward the back. Deliberate, coordinated. The kind of walk that says, "We've done this before." The man didn't move, didn't react. He had already stepped back, already complied, but still, they came. One guard leaned in, spoke low. Too low for Linda to hear, but she saw the man's reply, a slight shake of the head, measured calm. Then came the voice, not loud, but firm. "I'm not causing trouble," he said. "My son asked me to be here. I'm not moving until I see him walk that stage." The guard straightened, his tone sharpened. "Sir, I need you to come with me." Linda's heart pounded. Her eyes flicked to the crowd. Still no one noticed, or maybe they just didn't care, except the 6 men in row 5 and Linda. She leaned forward slightly. Instinctively, she was ready to say something, to stand, to speak, but she didn't have to, because one sound cut through the room. Soft at first, then louder, a chair scraping back, then another, then 4. More. 6 men stood, not dramatically, not like a protest, but with purpose, one by one. From the same row, all eyes turned. Finally, the man on the aisle stepped out, broad shoulders, baseball cap, eyes that had seen too much. He walked toward the back, toward the man about to be removed. Then he reached into his jacket, pulled out something small, a flash of metal, not a badge, not a weapon, but a symbol. Gold with silver wings, the trident, United States Navy SEAL. Linda froze. So did the guards. Another man joined him, then another. All 6 stood beside the Marine. Not in front of him, not guarding him. Behind him, like they always had. The first one turned to security. "That man doesn't leave this room," he said. "He led us through hell. He stays right here." Silence fell, not the awkward kind, the sacred kind, the kind you don't break unless you mean it. People began turning. Whispers filled the air, confused, curious, but Linda, she understood. You don't get 6 SEALs to stand for you unless you've carried them first. And now, he wasn't standing alone. He never was. At first, no one moved. Even the guards froze. Their hands hovered near their radios but didn't reach for them. The 6 men stood still, unarmed, unshaking. Their trident badges caught the overhead lights. Not flashy, just undeniable. Usher, who had turned the man away earlier, took a step back. Her lips parted, but no words came. The man at the center still didn't speak, still didn't gloat. He just lowered his eyes to the floor, not from shame, from humility, because he didn't come for this. He came to watch his son, that was all. Then, from the far left of the auditorium, a chair creaked. Another man stood, older, straight-backed, his chest lined with ribbons and medals that shimmered under a gray blazer. A few heads turned. Some gasped softly. Linda turned too. And she knew the uniform. Army, senior rank, a colonel. The man's voice wasn't loud, but every syllable landed. "I know that man," he said. "His name is Master Sergeant Raymond Cole, 3rd Reconnaissance Battalion, United States, Marine Corps, retired." Silence deepened. He continued. "In 2006, during Operation Firewatch in Kandahar, I watched that man run into a burning compound to drag out 5 Marines under active fire. He didn't wait for backup. He didn't ask for orders. He just went. A beat, heavy, sacred. And he was the only one who came back out." The colonel took a breath. His voice cracked, just slightly. He carried the rest of us on his back. The room didn't breathe. Not yet. Somewhere, a program slipped from someone's lap, hit the floor. No one moved to pick it up. Linda turned slowly, looking back at Raymond Cole, still standing, still silent, still holding his son's invitation like it was the only thing that mattered. Not medals, not applause, just the promise of a seat. And now the truth had walked into the room, dressed in medals and standing in formation. The whispers stopped. The stares softened. People who once dismissed him as extra now sat frozen, witnessing the weight of a life they'd ignored. He hadn't demanded anything, but now, even the walls seemed to lean in closer. Because when honor stands in silence, the world has no choice but to listen. And then, from the back of the graduate seating area, a figure moved, not rushed, not hesitant, just purposeful. A young man, in cap and gown, stepped forward from behind the rows of robed students. His gown fluttered with each step. His face, pale but focused. Linda knew instantly. This was him, the son, Lucas Cole. He didn't wait for the dean, didn't ask permission. He just walked up the side stairs toward the microphone at the podium. People began turning, confused, curious. He reached the mic, gripped both sides like it was the only thing keeping his hands from trembling. He didn't clear his throat, didn't look at the crowd. He looked straight ahead, toward the back of the room where his father stood. "That's my dad," Lucas said, voice steady, but thick with emotion. Some in the crowd gasped. Others went still. Lucas continued. "He didn't want attention. He never did. For as long as I can remember, every morning before school, he told me the same thing." Lucas swallowed, tightened his grip on the podium. "Stand tall. Keep going. Be someone you'd be proud to look in the eye." He paused. The silence was now so thick it almost hummed. "I'm proud today," he said, "but not because of this stage. Not because of this degree." He stepped out from behind the podium, walked down the stage stairs. "I'm proud because of him." He crossed the floor, past the stunned graduates, past the faculty. All eyes followed him. He reached his father, stopped, stood straight. Then, in one slow, practiced motion, Lucas brought his hand to his forehead and saluted. Raymond didn't return the salute. Instead, he stepped forward and pulled his son into his arms. No fanfare, no speech, just a father and his boy. The embrace wasn't dramatic. It was real. That's why it hit harder than anything else that day. The 6 seals straightened. One by one, as if on cue. They raised their hands. They saluted the man who had once led them through fire, and never asked for thanks. Linda blinked fast, fighting the sting in her eyes. She couldn't remember the last time she saw a room full of people forget themselves and remember what matters, and in that moment, no one cared about titles. No one cared about programs. No one asked for credentials. They saw a man who had given everything and a son who never forgot it. No one stopped him now. Not the usher, not the security guards. Not a single person in that room had the right anymore. Lucas stood beside his father, hand still on his shoulder, and slowly, they turned, facing the front. The same row that had once refused him. Now, it opened, not by command but by conscience. Linda watched from her seat. The entire room parted, like a tide making way for something sacred. One step, then another. Raymond didn't walk like a man proving something. He walked like a man who'd already paid the price. His boots, worn from years, landed softly but purposefully on the floor, measured, deliberate, like every step still carried the weight of others. Lucas walked beside him, his cap slightly tilted, his eyes fixed ahead. The front row loomed, the same row with silver placards. Reserved. Family only. But no one moved to block him now, not the usher, not the woman with the clipboard. She stepped back quietly, head lowered, clipboard shaking, slightly in her hands. Raymond said nothing, didn't look at her. Didn't need to. He'd already been seen by the only eyes that mattered. He reached the second row, center left, and stopped. Linda rose slowly from her seat. She didn't wait for permission either. She stepped aside, creating space, not because it was asked for, but because it was earned. Raymond sat down next to his son, not at the back, not by the exit, but here, where he belonged all along. Behind them, the 6 seals remained standing, silent, upright, unshifting. They didn't sit back down, they didn't have to. Their place wasn't in front or beside, it was behind, like always, like brothers. The ceremony continued, eventually, but it wasn't the same. The dean returned to the podium, his voice, smaller now, shaken, almost humbled. "We are honored today," he said, "to welcome guests of great distinction. Some we failed to recognize soon enough." A pause, then a few claps, then more. But it wasn't for him, or for the college, or even for the graduates. It was for a man who came with nothing but a folded card in his pocket and the kind of dignity the world forgets how to see. Raymond didn't smile, didn't stand. He simply unfolded the card again. Read the 12 words, "Dad, I want you in the front row," then tucked it back into his jacket, close to his chest, because that's all he wanted. Not recognition, not glory, just that seat for his son. And now, he had it. The ceremony ended. Caps were tossed, diplomas handed out, photos taken in every direction. But Raymond Cole stayed seated. So did Lucas. So did the 6 SEALs behind him. And so did Linda Monroe. She didn't want to leave. Not yet. She wanted to see what happened when the clapping stopped, when the decorations came down, when the stage was just a stage again. That's when it began. Quiet, small, one student, in a navy robe, stopped by Raymond's row. He didn't say much, just reached out, shook the older man's hand, then kept walking. Another came. This time she placed a hand gently on his shoulder, whispered something only they could hear. "Thank you," maybe. Or simply, "I see you." One by one, more students passed. Some saluted, some cried, some just paused, as if in the presence of something bigger than they'd ever been taught to notice. Linda watched, eyes wet, heart full. There was no music, no speech, no announcer telling them to look. They just knew. A young woman approached next, cap slightly askew, eyes glassy. She stopped in front of Raymond, saluted slowly, then whispered, "Thank you for carrying them." Raymond nodded, didn't speak, didn't need to. The message had already been passed, louder than any microphone. Then, one of the SEALs stepped forward, the youngest-looking one, barely 30. He reached into his pocket, pulled out something small, shiny, a coin, challenge coin. Linda had seen one once at a funeral. She never forgot it. They weren't given lightly, they were earned, deeply. The SEAL placed it in Raymond's hand. No words, just the coin, on one side. The SEAL emblem, on the other, 5 engraved words. "The quiet ones lead the loudest wars." Raymond looked at it, turned it slowly in his palm, then closed his hand around it. He didn't cry. But Linda swore, just for a moment, his shoulders, like something heavy had been carried just a little further. Not taken away. Just shared. And that meant everything. As the auditorium emptied and janitors swept programs from the floor, Linda finally stood. She glanced one last time toward the man who changed the entire morning without saying a word. He hadn't come to be honored, hadn't come to teach a lesson. He came because his son asked him to. Because somewhere, in a world that forgets so fast, one boy remembered. Linda walked to the exit, stopped at the door. She looked back, at the 6 men still standing, guard, at the father and son who never asked for applause, but received a standing ovation anyway. And in her heart she whispered what the whole room had finally understood. He didn't come to demand anything. He came for a seat, but by the time he left, the whole room stood for him. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't wear his history on his sleeve, but by the time he left, every heart in that auditorium knew his name. Raymond Cole didn't come to be honored. He came for a seat, to keep a promise to his son. But what he got was a nation's salute. If this story moved you, share it, leave a comment, and tell someone. Respect isn't given by status. It's earned in silence. Because sometimes, the quietest people have lived the loudest battles, and sometimes all they want is to be seen. This is Celebrity Undercover Stories, where the loudest truths come from the most unexpected places.